Okay, so in this video we're going to be looking at indices over here. So working at how we use them and how we can sort of define and explain them. Now throughout this video there's going to be a number of sort of definitions on these things over here, so make sure you're taking notes and identifying any of those key parts as we go through. So I'm just going to write a quick question down, and one that we probably get all the time. So let's just say that we have this right here, okay, and this is what we call an index. Okay, so an index number, and it's important that we first define what this means. So I'm going to get my blue pen here. Now the 4, we've got a big number, which is a 4, and then we've got a little number, which is a 2. And it's important that we identify what the two different parts is. The big number is what we call our base number. Okay, so our base number is there, which is going to be multiplied. Now the little number that we have on top of that number is what we call our index. So our index number. Or we can also call it our power number. Okay, so it's called an index or power number. Now what this basically means is that when we have a setup like this, if we had to write this in expanded notation, what we would do is we'd write this as how it would work out. So when we see these equations, all it basically means is that it's 4 times itself twice. Okay, so if all that would equal then would be 4 times 4. We can often get confused when we do index that we think that it might be 4 times 2. That is not the case. Okay, when we do index, it means 4 squared, which means 4 times itself twice. And that's what we'd write, that's how we'd write expanded notation. So make sure you know what the difference between expanded notation is, and this setup here is what we call our index notation. That's when we have our base number and then we have our index number or our power number. Now it's important that we understand when we have squared numbers or cube numbers. I'm just going to quickly pause this and rub this out, and I'll set up our next question. Okay, so often we get this question, a number squared or 3 squared. So the best way that we can best represent that is using these symbols here, and so we understand what it means. So if we have a squared number, you can see on this square here, it's made up of, okay, so we've got 4 rows and 4 columns. Now we know in previous videos that if we wanted to work out the total area of this, we times the length by the width. So that would be 4 times 4. Now I know that that's expanded notation, and a simpler way that we could represent this in our index notation, instead of 4 times 4, we could write 4 squared. So that's where we get the word squared from. If we multiply any number by itself twice, that's where we get a squared number. Now it can be different if we have a cubed number. Now here we have our square again. Okay, so we have 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4, so it's 4 times 4. But we also have this other dimension back here, going back the width there, which adds us another that we also need to multiply by 4. So here we actually have 4 times 4 times 4 to get the answer here. Now if we wanted to put that in index notation, we would write 4 cubed. So any number that is multiplied by itself 3 times would be cubed. Now this is not, all these numbers aren't just squared or cubed, they could be anything. So we could have a base number of 5 and a index or power number of 6. That would be in expanded notation 5 times itself 6 times. 5 times 5 times 5 times 5 times 5 times 5. Okay, so that's what that means. So whenever you have a base number and you have an index or power number, you just multiply the base number by the power number that many times. So that's, make sure you go through, you know what each of these mean, you know what the base and power numbers are, you know what expanded notation is, index notation, squared numbers and cubed numbers, and you need to be able to calculate them. So make sure you write down any questions and send them to me when you're ready to go. Thanks.